Ding, 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 ding. Guess what's inside? It's a bug. Black Mirror becomes a reality, and Tenable's CEO gives a pow pow to Microsoft. These stories and much more in today's episode of MSP Dispatch.
This episode is presented by OIT VoIP. Enhance your client's communication abilities with our VoIP solution, featuring integrated billing, on-demand training, and live US support. Collaborate seamlessly with Microsoft Teams integration and put your entire phone system in your pocket with Mobile X. Improve your offerings and increase profitability with reliable service for 1/10 of the average MSP acquisition cost. To learn more, visit oit.co or dial 844-CALL-OIT.
Good morning and welcome to the August 11th episode of MSP Dispatch, your source for news, community events, and commentary in the MSP channel. I'm Ray Orsini, joined as always by my co-host, Mr. Tony Francisco. How you doing, Tony?
Good. I'm making sure my eyebrows are on fleek. Are we good?
You're on fleek. You're not muted.
I'm not muted.
The bloopers to see why.
Oh man, be real. Okay, how are you doing? What's going on? Talk to me.
It's a fantastic day in the neighborhood. We got new hires starting. We had some start this week, some start next week. It's not raining at the moment in Florida and Miami, so for the next 30 seconds.
Wait 5 minutes, dude. It's gonna be
And for those that have never been to Miami, it doesn't rain straight down in Florida. It rains at an angle always. So umbrellas, unless you angle them, they don't work in Florida, but whatever, that's our thing. Speaking of craziness, have you been watching the Voyager 2 kerfuffle in the news?
I have heard things. Talk to me.
So NASA's Voyager 2, it's been out of communication for a while now, right? They lost communication with it. I want to say it's had 46 years in space, and they lost communication because a bad command from a probe antenna, caused the probe antenna to face away from Earth. Anybody who's ever had satellite or Starlink knows where you angle it makes all the difference in the world. And NASA had a whoops and lost communication with a nearly 50-year-old satellite. So they were trying a bunch of things. Now, here's the stuff that I think is amazing. This is the belt and suspenders of NASA. They probably do this better than anybody else on the planet. One of the things they did was that every 90 days, it does a course correction on its own, regardless of what state it was supposed to be in. It just auto adjusts itself. So they knew that no matter what happened, sometime in September, they had the date. I forget the actual date. That it was going to realign, and they were expecting to gain access anyway. But this big boy has done 12.4 billion miles. It's traveled 12.4 billion miles from Earth, and carries the golden record for potential contact with life. So apparently NASA said, sorry, Phil, you're going to have to dolphin this up. NASA decided to f around and find out, and they just started shouting commands into space. Legit, Control-Alt-Delete. Not Control-Alt-Delete, but pretty freaking close. And they just started shouting commands into space, and one of them hit, and they were able to regain access to the satellite, to Voyager 2. I think that's damn impressive.
So we're jumping in from an awesome Be Real blooper part. If you can, stay on to the end because it is awesome. Ray, thank you very much for that. But here's the point of what Ray was saying. This IT team has the record for the best. Hey, let's set up this process just in case things get really crazy. And it has been consistent. But awesome job to NASA to figure that out so long ago. How long? 40 years ago? How long?
46 years. 12.8 billion miles. That is insane. And I don't want to take credit for this because it actually predates MSP Dispatch by 45 years. But one would call every 3 months resetting, doing a course correction. One would call that a desired state configuration. And so I'm just saying NASA may have gotten that from us. I don't know. But you know what else other companies are getting from us today? We're announcing the very first time ever. What do these companies have in common? LastPass, Microsoft, Fortinet.
The most stories on the MSP Dispatch.
Yeah, actually, yeah, pretty damn close. So, and unfortunately, the most stories pertaining to vulnerabilities. So, we're announcing our our MMN Dumpster Fire Awards. So, these are going to be given to those wonderful exhibits of human intelligence and technology that just never fails to impress. And we actually have stories for Fortinet and Microsoft today. So they're firmly keeping their position with the Dumpster Fire Awards. For now, though, what do you say we get into some news?
Let's get into some of that competitive news. And my first story from darkreading.com, the downfall bug in billions of Intel CPUs reveals major design flaws. A design flaw dubbed downfall has been identified in billions of Intel processors made between 2014 and 2021, revealing a critical vulnerability. The issue lies in Intel's memory optimization feature, which inadvertently leaks internal hardware registers. By manipulating a particular instruction called gather, malicious actors can access data from other users or applications in a shared computing environment. This includes sensitive details like banking data and encryption keys. Although a patch has been released, it merely mitigates the exploit without addressing the root cause, the shared nature of internal hardware registers across different security domains. The lack of proper hardware isolation means the similar vulnerabilities are likely to emerge in the future, as seen with another flaw called Zenbleed in AMD processors. The underlying design flaw calls for a fundamental change in CPU architecture. Ray, when I hear fundamental systemic flaws in something that is used everywhere, I'm thinking, well, this is clearly never going to get fixed, ever. What are your thoughts?
I mean, they fixed Heartbleed, didn't they? Oh, wait, did they? No. Listen, what happened was, well, at least they fixed Print Nightmare, didn't they? Oh, wait, no. What happened was...
Why? You're triggering my anxiety. Oh my God.
No, but yeah, okay. I think you're missing the benefit of our experience in this, and that there's a bug or there's a vulnerability, and then we will realize that it's too complicated to retroactively fix. So they will provide software updates that work around it. And then if it's like Heartbleed, it'll reduce our performance by like 80%. And then they'll say, and undo it and live with the vulnerability because it requires interactive access. And I'd rather have that than an underperforming server. So I'm just saying, I'm not reading tea leaves here. I'm not calling out the future. I'm not Walter Mercado, but
2014 to 2021. A lot of our MSP audience weren't even born in 2014. I mean, these are young kids.
I mean, I'm gonna carry the one. All right, we'll go with that. Yeah.
It's a long
Dispatch,
time.
the official news show of the Teletubbies network.
At birth, that's how we literally impose IT on kids. Is we put our little.
I think that's called indoctrination. But we'll discuss that on the Discord.
But what do I mean? Is this ever going to be fixed? Is this possible? I mean, and what do you think? So just to be clear, there's literally a software limitation. Don't you think there's going to be a workaround around that?
I mean, there probably could be. This is the good thing is, like most of these, and I don't know the exact details of this, but most of these require interactive access. At the end of the day, servers and data centers, they're locked behind gate and door and gate and key and door and lock and, a pit bull named Waldorf, whatever. They have multiple layers. If this is an SMB servers in a data closet somewhere, maybe a little more accessible. But personally, if they have interactive access to one of your devices, you're kind of screwed anyway. Will they go back and fix something that's arguably as early as 2 years ago, as old as 10 years ago? Probably not. They can just pull a Sonos and say, hey, we don't support that anymore, buy a new one. Right? Because they're businesses.
So let's talk about how important that is, what you just said there. 2014 to 2021, isn't that almost causing engineered obsolescence to, hey, this is the reason why you should buy these next CPUs?
Yeah, I mean,
Think about that.
Realistically, what's your refresh cycle on a server, right? 5-10 years, whatever it is. You're rounding that already. 2014 is pretty damn, you've either put it on a refresh cycle or you're about to.
I'm gonna throw out some conspiracy theory for just a moment. Think about a backdoor flaw, a systemic flaw that is hidden for a decade, and then, hey, we have economic headwinds ahead. Let's push that trend. Not yet. Not in 2021 when we know we had to change the architecture.
You're saying this was planned. You're saying
I'm not saying anything. How dare you?
You're saying like when you used to buy a TV in the 1960s, like that thing was a brick and would last longer than your house.
I still have one.
If you bought a TV, yeah, the thing's probably massive. But if you bought a TV in 2020, that thing's probably dead by now. Is that what you're trying to say?
It's dead before the new year. Yeah. So I'm not saying that at all. I'm totally 100% saying that. But what an interesting way. So listen, hey, economic headwinds, compliance is a big concern. Let's just hold off until it's not looking good. We just found out. Here's an announcement. Let's come up with a very nice campaign and a marketing campaign behind this. Yeah, that's the way my brain thinks, by the way. So
no. Windows 10 is going to be the last Windows ever. Wait.
You know what? Here's my question for you. Windows 10 is everything until it's not. But you know what is awesome? Zoom. Because Zoom will always be there, it will always work, it will always be free forever, and it will always be secure for everyone. Right, Ray?
Sometimes it works too well. Yeah, I mean, Zoom always works and sometimes a little too good. Like in this next story, my second security story, Zoom addresses privacy concerns raised by AI data collection, written by Khadija Kojer for NBC News. Zoom, the video conferencing app, has addressed privacy concerns stemming from AI data collection language in its terms of service. Specifically, users have expressed alarm over Section 10.4, which grants Zoom an extensive data usage license, including AI training. In response, Zoom has clarified that it will not utilize audio, video, or chat data for AI model training without explicit user consent. For instance, meeting administrators can opt out of sharing meeting summary data with Zoom, and meeting participants are informed about Zoom's updated data sharing policies. They're also provided with the option to either accept or leave the meeting. Moreover, in a blog post, Zoom stated that its revised terms place emphasis on user content ownership and transparent AI consent, reflecting the company's commitment to empowering users to make well-informed decisions. However, despite the company's response, skepticism continues among users and data privacy advocates, highlighting the broader issue of public awareness surrounding AI data usage and the absence of comprehensive data protection laws. Tony, one of these things does not look like the other. So originally their terms of service said they could train their AI based on anything that happens in a Zoom meeting. That's the TLDR in the original. It's been revised to say, we take your concern seriously. We're going to let you know you can either consent or leave the meeting. How is that better? How is that?
And then we compound it with, they have clearly said they're not going to be using video and microphones, when we just covered this week in the MSP Dispatch how a microphone with a net 97% accuracy can determine your keystrokes on from a 97. What was it? 90? Oh, I'm sorry. It was 93% through a Zoom
it's just
or remote
93%.
meeting. I'm sorry. It's only 93%. I'm so sorry about that. 93% accuracy through a Zoom meeting if there's a microphone around you. I want you to process that, everyone. And Zoom is saying, well, hold on, we'll do regulation. Now, the question is, what is that regulation and what are they actually going to do with the information that they have? That has not been explicitly pointed out, but they have used the term AI. So, of course, that includes literally the story we just talked about, okay? Because that's what it's allowing, make no mistake. And we're also going to trust them with the video content, the voice recognition, not to mention the background ancillary noise, such as the keyboard and the text. I'd like to point out that the percentage of their framework that's going to protect us needs to be applied. And this is where I remind everybody that's listening to this right now, CPR, there's a little fact for you. CPR only works 7% of the time outside of a hospital environment. I want you to process that for a moment. It only works 7% of the time. Now, we all see the CPR, the training videos and all that. We have 0% control, and we're going to hope that their framework is going to not exploit everything about us, because it will have literally our voice, the visual component, the containment of who we are. It will have the background noise, which by definition from the article can exploit our accounts, which will give us a lot of internal properties that are not topically available to others. And we are now are we being forced to? I mean, is that the article? We're being forced to
that's
comply?
what I understood. I mean, I don't run a multi-billion-dollar company. They may know more than I do, but I'm looking at Black Mirror just had this episode released a couple of weeks ago, where the very first episode was Netflix taking somebody's likeness and making content on it, and how that ruined their life. And there was a whole global discussion on how horrible that would be. And then the writers union strikes because the studios are trying to do exactly that. And then, as if that wasn't enough, and top of mind at the top of the news, and then I'm sorry, Streamberry on BlackBerry on Black Mirror, not Netflix. But I love that they screw with themselves that much. I appreciate that. But then on top of everything else, Zoom, who is a powerhouse in the space, there's no question about that, says, well, Google Meet is free. Microsoft Teams is included with any 365 subscription and has free versions for home and includes most of the features Zoom has. Yeah, we're going to tell you to either follow our rules or get out. That doesn't sound smart to me.
We're living in Black Mirror, and then I see the dog. Look at the dog; it's now doing flips with his robot friend, and they're jumping around. They're doing. Listen, and if you haven't been watching Black Mirror on Netflix, in the nicest possible way, don't do it. It will literally be the manifestation of every possibly horrible thing that you can imagine with technology.
And it's almost always this technology thing that completely goes awry and then creates this dystopian future. So if you pair Black Mirror with MSP Dispatch, you're going to be completely paranoid. There is not a medical insurance plan on the planet that will cover the meds you need. And so let's give some breathing room. Let's talk about, we talked about bad behavior. We talked about, our dumpster fire words. Tony, can you give us some good news? Let's highlight a multi-billion-dollar organization that is doing responsible actions when called to carpet, right?
I'll give you the highlight. Jumping right into that highlight from cyberscoop.com, Tenable CEO Amit Yoran publicly criticized Microsoft for its inadequate response to a significant security vulnerability in its Azure platform. Yoran's critique, unusual from a high-ranking cybersecurity official, follows a recent backlash against Microsoft for a cyber attack targeting U.S. government officials. Yoran accused Microsoft of having a culture that downplays vulnerabilities. Although Tenable identified and reported a flaw in a Microsoft Azure product that could expose a bank's authentication secrets, Microsoft's response was deemed insufficient by Tenable. 4 months post-disclosure, a proper fix has not been implemented. Microsoft acknowledged the vulnerability and confirmed it, but only provided a partial solution. Yoran labeled Microsoft's handling of the situation as grossly irresponsible and blatantly negligent. This criticism coincides with heightened security scrutiny of Microsoft after a hacking incident believed to have originated in China exploited one of its products to access U.S. officials' emails. Ray, aside from the what I consider to be somewhere between 13 and 18 bloopers from that reading, which everyone could see in the B-reel, tell me your thoughts, not to be cursing in between all of the mistakes that I made while reading that article out. But is this the first step in another true official that's respected coming down and saying, listen, we need to look at these larger companies?
So, and first of all, go check out the bloopers, because Tony read this story flawlessly the first time, wrong graphic, wrong title, wrong segment, but he read the story perfectly. So you should absolutely go check out the bloopers. All right. So I want to qualify this first of all. Amit is legit. All right. He's CEO of Tenable since 2017. Before that, he was president of RSA. While he was at RSA, before that, he was CEO of NetWitness Corp, which was bought by RSA and then bought by EMC. And then he was the National Cybersecurity Division Director within the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. He was a co-founder of Riptech, which was bought by Symantec, which was then, and he was on the board of Cyota, which is then bought by RSA, and then he was other companies.
How do you know this? Yeah. Like, this is fascinating. Do you have like Wikipedia in front of you?
I absolutely do. And then on top of all that, he graduated U.S. Military Academy and was one of the founding members of the U.S. Department of Defense Computer Emergency Response Team. This dude, when he talks, people need to listen, right? So, but here's the thing. Your story called out appropriately. It's rare for people that high up to call out other organizations. One, because at that level, they're working with the other organizations hand in hand. You know what I mean? And you're an executive like I am. We do our business behind closed doors on cell phones, over text messages. We're not going to go to the public and start calling major corporations out unless you have a show called MSP Dispatch. And
I was just going to say the irony of that statement. The irony, but this is not us in the outside world. This is being neutral.
No, these are legit people with like actual careers. Tony and I work very hard to get to a position where we don't have to answer to people and we can do stupid things. But here's the thing though. So he calls it out, and every once in a while, and I'm sure you've had to do this, and Lord knows I have to do this with my companies. Every once in a while, you got to step in and swing a bat, right? Like you got to step in on behalf of your staff. You got to step in on behalf of your partners, your clients. Christopher Walken, anybody that's ever watched the Pool Hall Junkies, he gives this awesome monologue talking about how the lion is out there in the savannah and the hyenas are chipping at his ears and his tail, and he doesn't do anything. And the kittens or the cubs are biting at him, not paying attention. And then eventually the hyenas get too close to the babies. And every once in a while, the lion needs to step up and show everybody why he's king of the jungle. And that's the way you get stuff done. And unfortunately, that's what Amit did here. And Microsoft went from ignoring for 60 days, saying we'll fix it 90 days after that, so 150 days total, to saying, oh yeah, fixed it. You know what I mean? Like, that shouldn't have to happen in a responsible organization. Am I wrong here? Am I expecting too much?
I think you called it on exactly what it was, which was, if it was so egregious that it attracted the attention of, frankly, a very highlighted individual across multiple industries, but very well respected, very much initiated, to where he publicly, not just calls it out, but goes so far as to almost denounce the actions, the overall theme of that particular action that's associated directly with the company. Now, we all know that has a cost from an executive level, and we try to avoid that as much as possible and be neutral and be politically correct. But in this particular case, for the betterment of the world, not just the industry, the world, he is calling out Microsoft, which, tip of the hat to you, sir. Thank you very much. And it may be less offensive and just enough to shake the cage of the people over there that says, listen, we really have to address this now. This is not a joke anymore. This is not something we can just sweep under the carpet.
Yeah, it's a shame, but I also wonder why this one. LastPass, right? He didn't say a word. And there were plenty of opportunities. Fortinet didn't say a word. There were plenty of opportunities.
But was that the buildup? Let's think about that for a moment, because you have an extremely valid point. Was it, hey, it happens, okay, 2 times coincidence, 3 times pattern, 4 times you have a serious issue? We're at 5, 6, 10, 20 times. We have a systemic problem, and the people that are leading the industry, that are the common denominator across the board, Microsoft, are executing the exact same thing that was back in step number 1. This is where I jump in and say something. I'm done of the MSP Dispatch crew saying this entire time what's going on. I need to show my value over them. that happened, right?
So, and Amit, if you want your next target, you should listen to our notables. We have some more fodder for you, man. Tony, why don't we get into those?
Let's get to the notables.
In my first notable mention, FortiOS Buffer, Overflow, and Execute Extender Command, written by FortiGuard Labs for FortiGuard website. Published by FortiGuard on August 8th, 2023, CVE 2023-29182 reveals a stack-based buffer overflow vulnerability in FortiOS. This could enable a privileged attacker to execute arbitrary code by employing specifically crafted CLI commands. Affected versions include FortiOS 7.00 to 7.0.3, and all versions of FortiOS 6.4 and all versions of FortiOS 6.2. To address this issue, users are advised to upgrade to FortiOS version 7.4.0 or above, 7.2.0 or above, or 7.0.4 or above. In my second notable mention, Microsoft Visual Studio Code Flaw lets extensions steal passwords, written by Bill Toulis for Bleeping Computer. Psycho discovered a security flaw in Microsoft Visual Studio Code, otherwise known as VS Code, that enables malicious extensions to retrieve authentication tokens from Windows, Linux, and Mac OS credential managers. These tokens are used for third-party services, integration, and their theft could lead to data breaches and unauthorized system access. The vulnerability results from a lack of isolation in VS Code's secret storage API, letting extensions access secured tokens. Consequently, attackers can exploit this flaw to extract secrets without altering extension code. Despite Psycode reporting the issue, Microsoft's engineers deemed it non-critical and opted to maintain the current design of VS Code's secret storage management framework.
And my first notable mention from darkreading.com, ransomware victims surge as threat actors pivot to zero-day exploits. Ransomware attacks surged 143% from Q1 2022 to Q1 2023. The attackers increasingly exploiting zero-day and one-day vulnerabilities. Instead of just encrypting data, many now steal sensitive data and extort organizations by threatening to leak or sell it. Akamai's research found a shift from phishing to vulnerability exploitation as the primary access vector. Notably, CIOP ransomware group exploited zero-day vulnerabilities to infiltrate major companies. Akamai warns of the trend towards using in-house developed zero-day vulnerabilities in large-scale attacks. Additionally, many ransomware groups are focusing more on data theft over encryption, leaving companies with limited recovery options. Akamai emphasized the need for timely patching and continued vigilance against phishing. And in my next notable mention from darkreading.com, Apple users see Big Mac attack, says Accenture. Apple Mac computers have witnessed a tenfold rise in dark web threat actor targeting since 2019, according to a report by Accenture's Cyber Threat Intelligence, that's ACTI, unit. Historically, Windows and Linux devices were the primary focus for threat actors, but a growing dark web community has shifted their attention to Macs. This shift has attributed to a mix of innovations and economic incentives, Macs becoming more prevalent in enterprises. However, many organizations do not apply the same security measures to Macintoshes as they do to Windows devices, increasing vulnerabilities. The high-profile threat actors like Lockbit 3.0 are developing ransomware specifically for Macs. The surge in Mac adoption, coupled with false sense of security among users, may further escalate these threats.
For today's AI Roundup segment, the international AI arms race continues to heat up. On August 9th, Reuters reported that major Chinese internet companies, including Baidu, ByteDance, which is TikTok's parent company, Tencent, and Alibaba, have placed orders amounting to $5 billion for high-performance NVIDIA chips essential for generative AI systems. This includes $1 billion for around 100,000 A800 processors to be delivered this year, and an additional $4 billion for graphics processing units scheduled for 2024 delivery. NVIDIA didn't provide specific details on the report, but highlighted the routine hefty investments by consumer internet companies and cloud providers in data center components. Last year, the Biden administration introduced rules to hinder China's semiconductor progress while promoting the U.S. chip sector. To align with the export controls, NVIDIA now offers the A800 processor in China after being asked to halt top computing chip exports for AI tasks. Recent developments also saw President Biden further restricting certain U.S. investments in China's sensitive tech domains. NVIDIA previously mentioned export restrictions might limit opportunities for U.S. industries. The mentioned Chinese companies did not provide immediate comments. That's it for today's AI Roundup. Let's check out some community events. There are plenty of amazing upcoming events taking place across the community, so let's see what's happening this week. On August 15th, an in-person event, Kaseya and Datto Sales and Marketing Series in Detroit, Michigan. And on August 16th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, MSP Insiders presented by Blue Mira. And also on the 15th through the 17th, another in-person event, 7-Figure MSP Live in Chicago, Illinois. And coming from the MSP Media Network this week we have, on August 13th at 7 p.m. Eastern, MSP Community Live is back for episode 6. And on August 15th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, another installment of Pitch It Vendor Spotlight featuring Aquila Clouds and Sales Mature IT. And also on August 15th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Wins and Losses episode 5. And on the 16th at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, AI Roundup episode 23. And as always on Tuesdays and Fridays at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, MSP Dispatch presented by the MSP Media Network. Are you engrossed by the intriguing world of AI? Do you find yourself relying more on ChatGPT every day? Are you fascinated by creating visuals with Midjourney or Stable Diffusion? Or could it be you're contemplating the deep-seated implications AI has for your professional field? If you're struggling to keep abreast of all the AI developments, don't worry. I'm Phil Buck, the host of AI Roundup, a weekly digest of all things AI. Make sure to check in every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern for a concise roundup of the most captivating AI news right here on the MSP Media Network.
So how'd you like today's show? If you liked it, hit the thumbs up button. If you didn't, go ahead and hit it 3 or 5 times. And if you want to hear more, go ahead and hit the subscribe button on YouTube or your favorite podcatcher. Did you know we also have a Discord where we post stories all week? You can propose your own stories and even vote on which ones we'll cover. As my friend Rich Mankey says, make sure to tell a friend. Also, be sure to follow us on social media at MSP Media TV. Have any questions? Email news@mspmedia.tv for answers on the next episode, or leave us a voicemail, 833-MSP Network. Tony, we did awards. We talked about space, no space eating, but pretty damn close. It was space YOLO. We'll go space YOLO. And, we got vulnerabilities. We got bloopers and bloopers and bloopers.
We talked about the longest standing award for the MSP that created a, hey, just in case policy 40 something years later. That's a big deal.
That's badass. And let's leave on the high note because I think we've tortured people enough with our episode. So let's, go check out space and go see how that NASA stuff can apply to you. And if you have some ideas, let us know in the Discord and we'll talk about it. But for now, everybody, we appreciate you. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.
Be safe, everyone, and don't forget that be real.
This has been a broadcast of the MSP Media Network.
Good morning and welcome to the August 11th episode of MSP Dispatch, your source for news, community events, and commentary in the MSP channel. I'm Ray Orsini, joined as always by my co-host, Mr. Tony Francisco. How you doing, Tony?
Muted, Tony.
Muted?
Oh my God, I'm muted! Oh!
You're muted. Da-da-da, you're muted. Na-na-na-na.
I even
Muted,
hit the
muted,
button,
muted.
and I'm like, I'm not gonna be on mute. Okay. So why don't we do that one more time? Hey, there's your entry B-roll. You're welcome. Do you think they hold the title for? Like,
you're muted again.
There's
You're
no way I'm
muted
muted.
again.
I'm
You're
not
muted
muted.
again.
No way. I can hear
yourself.
I can hear him.
Again.
I can
I'm
hear
Tony
Tony.
Francisco, and oh my God,
no,
this is
not
crazy.
me.
I can't
It's
believe it. Why are you
Ray.
telling me to buy
It's
this?
Ray. Hey, Phil, do you hear? You hear me?
He can't hear
to me either.
Oh, he's not muted. I can't hear. Oh, me. I can't hear. Oh, I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot. Okay.
That was a good one.
Yoran accused Microsoft of having a culture that downplays vulnerabilities. Although Tenable identified...
I think you're reading the wrong story. Phil showing downfall bug of billions of...
I am, because I'm reading the wrong one. Like, I'm looking at this, and where did I get this? Hold on.
Oh my God,
That is
sorry.
your story one. Phil just has the wrong... or you have the wrong show notes.
I have the wrong show notes.
Reflecting the company's commitment to empower users to make well-deformed, Jesus. Let me do that one. Moreover, in a blog post, Zoom stated that its revised terms place emphasis on user content. However, despite the company's response, skepticism continues among users and data. Reading is hard.
Although Tenable identified and reported a flaw in a Microsoft Azure product that could expose a bank's authentication secrets. There's a lot of syllables here, a lot of letters. Here we go.
I'm just going to say, when you did the story the first time with the wrong picture, you did it really well.